Hello and welcome to the Florida Aviation Professionals Academy, also known as FAPA. FAPA was developed by the Florida Department of Transportation's Central Aviation Office located in Tallahassee. The goal of FAPA is to provide technical knowledge to airports, FDOT staff, and other aviation professionals. FAPA provides an introduction to aviation in Florida for those who are not only new to the aviation industry, but also serves as a refresher for seasoned aviation professionals. As part of FAPA, 3 computer-based trainings, or CBTs, were developed. These CBTs provide a baseline understanding before attendance at the full course and cover topics that previous attendees have requested additional information on. The first CBT will provide all the information needed to familiarize yourself with specifics to the organizational structure of FDOT and the Aviation Office, as well as help you develop an increased understanding of federal and state policies supporting aviation in Florida. Again, welcome, and we hope that you enjoy this training and gain even more knowledge about FAPA, FDOT, and aviation here in the great state of Florida.
The first few minutes of this CBT will be an overview of the Florida Aviation Professionals Academy, or FAPA. We'll be providing a bit of context on why and how FAPA was developed. FAPA is not intended to teach participants how to be airport managers or how to run an airport. FAPA is also not intended to provide an in-depth detail on any of these subject matters. Rather, it is a high-level overview of each topic. FAPA was developed to provide a foundation for new personnel in understanding aviation processes, policies, and requirements within Florida. To assist in developing personnel transitions into new roles related to airport management, operations, and planning, and to enhance skills relevant to their duties and responsibilities. For more information on any of the topics discussed, contact either your FDOT District Aviation Coordinator or the relevant staff member at the FDOT Aviation Office. To begin this CBT, we present a module on FDOT and Florida Aviation Regulations. This will provide an overview of how the FDOT Aviation Office generally operates, how it supports aviation throughout Florida, and what functions it serves. This module introduces the FDOT Central Office, FDOT District Offices, as well as provides relevant context as to why there is an aviation program in Florida. This module will conclude with an overview of the aviation regulatory environment from both the federal and state perspectives, as well as the different federal and state agencies involved in aviation in the state of Florida. To provide an overview of our aviation system, we would like to begin with the Aviation Office video developed as part of the One FDOT campaign.
Did you know that Florida is home to 684 private and public use airports? The Florida Department of Transportation is proud to partner with these airports in various ways, some of which include but are not limited to. FDOT performs airport inspections across the state on an annual basis to make sure the landing areas, whether it's a helipad or a runway, are safe for aircraft to land and take off from. FDOT implements a site approval process for all proposed airports. This includes, but is not limited to, airports, heliports, helistops, ultralight flight parks, and seaplane bases. Every few years, FDOT's Aviation Office performs an in-depth analysis of the economic impact of the aviation system. All public use facilities are evaluated, as well as several military and private airfields. The most recent update of this study was completed in 2019 and demonstrates that the aviation system in Florida contributes over $175 billion to the state's economic activity each year. Another important way that the Aviation Office supports Florida airports is through our extensive grant program. FDOT developed the Aviation Grant Program to provide for a safe, cost-effective, and efficient statewide aviation transportation system. This program provides financial assistance to Florida's airports in the areas of safety, security, preservation, capacity improvement, land acquisition, planning, and economic development. Program funds assist local governments and airport authorities in planning, designing, and constructing infrastructure at public use aviation facilities. Florida's airports are the first impression for many people visiting the Sunshine State, and FDOT is proud to support the aviation industry in Florida.
To better understand how FDOT operates, it is vital to recognize the organizational structure of FDOT. FDOT is decentralized in accordance with Florida legislative mandates. The highest level of management is the FDOT Central Office. Within Central Office, the Aviation Office is under the Office of Freight, Logistics, and Passenger Operations, which is under the Assistant Secretary of Strategic Development, who reports to the Secretary. The Secretary reports to the Governor of Florida, who ultimately reports to the people of Florida. FDOT district offices are separate from FDOT Central Office. Each of FDOT's 7 districts contain aviation coordinators who help Central Office implement policies and procedures, as well as carry out the functional implementation of the Aviation Grant Program and provide program management support throughout the state. The Aviation Office has 2 primary sections, Aviation Development and Aviation Operations. Together, these sections work together to fulfill the role and statutory obligation of the state's aviation department. The Aviation Office is overseen by the State Aviation Manager, who has overall management responsibility for the aviation program, deals with statewide aviation program funding policy, and manages funding allocation for the 7 districts and the statewide system. The State Aviation Manager is also responsible for the management and operation of the different sections within the Aviation Office.
Chances are you've already had many interactions with FDOT aviation staff. Perhaps you are responsible for facilitating your airport's annual inspection and have met the Airport Inspection and Safety Manager. Has your airport recently undergone a pavement inspection? This is coordinated with the Airport Engineering Manager. Or maybe you've had a question about airport compatibility land use and reached out to our Airspace and Land Use Manager. At the highest level, the Development section supports planning, pavement inspections, program funding, airport layout plans, and airport master plans, among other responsibilities. The Operations sections handles licensing, inspections, compatible land use, and communications. Both sections support airports and district staff directly and ensure the safe and efficient use of aviation facilities in the state. As you can see, the FDOT Aviation Office has no shortage of responsibilities and duties to the Florida aviation system. The following contains a bit more information on how the Development and Operations sections work together to help maintain Florida as the premier state for aviation.
The primary functions of the Development section include reviewing airport master plans and airport layout plans, developing and monitoring the Florida Aviation System Plan, or the FASP, managing airfield pavement inspections, managing the Florida Aviation Database, or FAD, and developing and monitoring airport construction specifications. The Development section is led by the Aviation Development Administrator, who is responsible for managing the department's statewide aviation development program, overseeing the formulation of the department's aviation technical policies, procedures, and criteria, and analyzing the long-range needs, issues, and alternatives for the statewide airport and airspace system. There are 4 staff members under the Aviation Development Administrator in the Development section, including the Airport Engineering Manager, the Airport Planning Manager, the Aviation System Manager, and the in-house consultant. More detailed information on the various roles and responsibilities of the Development section and these staff members can be found in the FDOT Aviation Project Handbook and will also be covered as part of the in-person FAPA course. The primary functions of the Operations section include inspecting and licensing public airports, registering private airports, monitoring local airport zoning ordinances, reviewing airspace obstruction and permit issues, and developing and managing the Florida Airport Directory, Aeronautical Chart, and the Florida Flyer. The Aviation Operations section is led by the Aviation Operations Administrator, who is responsible for maintaining the department's statewide aviation regulatory programs, overseeing statewide site approval, inspection, licensing, and registering programs, and serving as the Air Support Coordinator for the Florida Air Operations Branch under the State Emergency Response Team. There are 4 staff members under the Aviation Operations Administrator in the Operations section, including the Private Airport and Finance Manager, Airport Inspection and Safety Manager, Aviation Communications Manager, and the Airspace and Land Use Manager. More detailed information on the various roles and responsibilities of the Operations section and these staff members can be found in the FDOT Aviation Project Handbook and will also be covered as part of the in-person FAPA course. Being one of the most dynamic and multifunctional modes of transportation, aviation requires a balanced and efficient regulatory environment to ensure maximum safety and operational efficiency. Over the past several decades, aviation regulations have evolved and adapted to become a very complex and layered environment. This environment consists of federal, state, and local policies, regulations, practices, and oversight, ensuring that all priorities and identified issues are met at each level. Aviation regulation is a joint effort between federal and state governments. Because of its inherent interstate characteristics, there are several entities within the federal government that have responsibility for the regulation of the nation's aviation system. The U.S. Department of Transportation, or USDOT, has authority to oversee the country's transportation network. Similar to the structure of FDOT, the USDOT is an overarching agency responsible for a number of different modes of transportation, including the Maritime Administration, the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, as well as the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA. The mission of the FAA is to provide the safest, most efficient aerospace system in the world. Since its inception, the FAA has done just that. To accomplish this, the FAA has promulgated policies and regulations governing virtually every aspect of civil aviation in the United States, in addition to operating the nation's air traffic control system. In response to the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, the Aviation and Transportation Security Act was signed into law. This law required screening conducted by federal officials, 100% screening of checked baggage, the expansion of the Federal Air Marshal Service, and cockpit doors to be reinforced. Today, TSA's responsibilities at airports include the staffing and equipment necessary to perform passenger and luggage screening, and the oversight of private companies providing screening services under TSA's Screening Partnership Program. The mission of Customs and Border Protection, or CBP, is to safeguard America's borders. CBP is located at airports that are referred to as ports of entry. A port of entry is an officially designated location, a seaport, airport, or other land border, where CBP officers are assigned to accept entry of merchandise, clear passengers, collect duties, and enforce the various provisions of CBP and regulated laws. The effectiveness in ensuring safety and efficiency throughout the country has been achieved through the development of numerous aviation regulations, commonly referred to as the Federal Aviation Regulations. Compliance with the Federal Aviation Regulations is required for all aviation activity. However, the FAA has also developed a series of advisory circulars, or ACs. ACs do not require compliance, but provide information and best practices for a wide variety of topics. ACs give aviation practitioners additional guidance on complying with the Federal Aviation Regulations and operating safely and efficiently. FAA orders provide guidance to FAA personnel on interpreting, implementing, and administering the administration's policies and programs. Outside of the FAA, these orders are useful for determining the procedural processes, applications, and other factors affecting the operation and development of the aviation system from the federal perspective. While the federal government details the requirements applicable to aviation through federal aviation regulations, advisory circulars, and FAA orders, the state of Florida also has requirements. Those are detailed in statutes, administrative code, and special planning studies such as the Florida Transportation Plan, the Florida Aviation System Plan, and the Strategic Intermodal System Plan. A statute is a permanent collection of state laws organized by subject area. Florida statutes are updated annually by the Florida legislature, with the passage of new laws that create, amend, transfer, or repeal statutory material. This collection of organized state laws is critical to the overall safety and success of the state aviation system. Specifically, the FDOT Aviation Office prescribes 8 existing Florida statutes that have a direct impact on the state aviation system. These statutes include topics ranging from airport zoning to aircraft title and registration. Florida Administrative Code is the official compilation of administrative rules for the state of Florida. The Department of State oversees the publishing of the Florida Administrative Code and updates it weekly. Specific to aviation, Chapter 1460 of Florida Administrative Code is pertinent to FDOT and intertwines with Florida Statute Chapters 330 and 333. Together, these documents effectively regulate airport licensing, regulation, and airspace protection. Further information and more in-depth analysis of 1460, as well as Chapters 330 and 333 of Florida statutes, will be covered as part of the in-person FAPA course. The FDOT Aviation Office is involved with several planning efforts, including the Florida Transportation Plan, the Florida Aviation System Plan, and the Strategic Intermodal System Plan. The Florida Transportation Plan, or FTP, is the single overarching statewide plan guiding Florida's transportation future. It is a plan for all Florida created by and providing direction to the Florida Department of Transportation and all organizations that are involved in planning and managing Florida's transportation system, including statewide, regional, and local partners. The purpose of the FTP is to establish and define Florida's long-range transportation goals and objectives to be achieved over a 20-year period. The plan is a guiding document for all modes of transportation within FDOT and transportation partners throughout the state to carry out their responsibilities for the administration and development of Florida's transportation system. The FTP incorporates the findings and recommendations of each modal plan, including the Florida Aviation System Plan, or FASP. The Florida Aviation System Plan incorporates the traditional aviation system planning elements as well as analysis of the intermodal aspects of the state transportation system. It includes a strategic planning element which defines 7 strategic goals and the approaches, measurements, and recommendations to achieve those goals. More in-depth information about the FASP and its goals will be covered as part of the in-person FAPA course. The Strategic Intermodal System, or SIS, comprises Florida's statewide network of high-priority transportation facilities, including the state's largest and most significant airports, spaceports, deep-water seaports, freight rail terminals, interregional rail and bus terminals, rail corridors, urban fixed guideway transit corridors, waterways, and highways. The SIS will be covered in more detail during the in-person FAPA course.
Thank you for reviewing the first computer-based training for the Florida Aviation Professionals Academy course. Before we see you at the in-person course, please review the second CBT, which covers FDOT inspections and overall program management. These are the topics that have consistently generated the most questions and discussion at previous FAPA courses. Thank you again for reviewing this first CBT, and we will see you soon at FAPA.